Thank you for joining the IA's 2015 International Conference Speaker Preview. I'm Shannon Steffi, Senior Editor for Internal Auditor Magazine. Joining me is Jason Hadavi, Chief of Investigations for the City of Austin, Texas. He will present When Audits Become Investigations on Tuesday, July 7th, 2015 in Vancouver. Hi, Jason. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
When does an audit become an investigation?
That's actually a complicated question. Every organization is so different. We all are required to follow different reporting regulations. We have different laws that affect us. We all have different standards that we follow and different resources available. So determining when an audit becomes an investigation is really a process or a framework that each audit organization really needs to develop so that they have a consistent process when they do find indications or risks of fraud, waste, and abuse during their audits.
Can you talk about some best practices for handling the discovery of fraud, waste, or abuse during an audit?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest one is to never confront the suspect. We are going to find red flags or indicators of fraud, waste, and abuse in a lot of different audits, and resisting that temptation to go talk to the person that you think may have committed a violation or done something inappropriate is really an exercise in discipline that could really contaminate any investigations, administrative or criminal, that could follow. Minding chain of custody and other unique perspectives or laws, regulations that the organization is subject to is really important. Some organizations have unions. There's different protections for employees. Recording interviews have different impacts in different states. So being aware of all of those things and being on board with the investigative authority that you're going to be working with is really, really important.
What are some success strategies for referring fraud, waste, or abuse matters to the appropriate investigative authorities?
Well, it may sound overly simple, but I would say the biggest one is regular communication with the investigative authority. The best partnerships I've had with outside investigators in every organization I've worked with has been built on a regularly scheduled meeting, whether or not we have something to refer, whether or not we even have something that looks like it could be potential fraud, waste, or abuse. We've met monthly, we've discussed workloads, changes in our organizations, staffing issues, upcoming projects that may be hurdles for cases coming up in the next 30 days. And we've kept in tune with all of those things. We've even gone to the level of detail of understanding when someone might be out on vacation or extended leave and who to contact in their place. And that well-established relationship and line of communication allowed for us to have an easy transition whenever a referral did come up. So I'd recommend everyone to work with those investigators, to contact them regularly, to keep them up to date on what they're working on and what could be coming down the pipeline in the near future.
If fraud, waste, or abuse has been found, how can you continue with the original audit without interfering with investigations?
That's a tough one. I would say the biggest successes we've had in that area have been based on managing our scope or even managing our sample in particular areas. You don't want to do anything that's going to ruin an investigation. And so negotiating with the investigators is really important, but you can, if you're able to categorize the potential fraud, waste, or abuse into a particular process and you can scope that out of your audit, or if it's all attributable to a specific vendor and you can eliminate them from your sample, you can continue with your audit process and even report on it from a non-descriptive standpoint and indicate that you scoped them out or that you didn't look at this particular area because there were some concerns that you referred elsewhere.
Can you talk briefly about one of the real-life cases in your presentation?
Sure. I think this would be a good opportunity to talk about a situation that maybe didn't go in an ideal manner. There was a local nonprofit that had a lot of different funding agencies, both at the state and local level here in Austin, and there were some auditors from another agency that were in there looking at their compliance with their requirements, and they identified some red flags. They did some really great audit work and identified some really problematic situations, but they violated that rule of resisting the temptation to confront the subject of the investigation. And they confronted them. And as a result, the subject got in a plane and flew out of the country. And it was a very difficult situation for criminal investigators and prosecutors to deal with in the next, I guess it was about a year. And but they eventually got the person back. They identified up to about $2 million worth of embezzlements. A lot of records were destroyed prior to the individual leaving the country. And I think that that amount might have even doubled had we had all the records available to us.
Thanks for joining us, Jason. We'll see you in Vancouver.
All right, thanks for having me.